Joining us on this edition of KTSW 360 is one of the newest additions to the San Marcos High School family, head coach Jared Teo of the varsity volleyball team. Coach, thank you for joining me today. Really appreciate the time.
Yeah, thanks, Connor, for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and I really want to start of when you started growing up in Fort Worth, Texas. I know that I was reading an article that you spent a lot of time with your family playing volleyball together. Is that where your love of volleyball started to manifest and grow?
Yeah, so I am half Samoan.
Hmm.
My dad's from Samoa and grew up in Hawaii, and everybody plays volleyball on his side. So it was kind of just like a natural thing we would do at family get-togethers or in the backyard. But in the state of Texas, there is not a men's volleyball program at most high schools. So I didn't really ever get to try the sport, if you will. So I lived through my sisters. They all played. So I'd always go to their games and practice with them when I could. And as I got a little older, I enrolled in a volleyball class in college. So I actually didn't find a true love for it until much later in life than most people, I think. And did that. It was super fun. And then I enjoyed working with kids always. So I started coaching at a very small YMCA, if you will, at like the age of 18. Then was kind of a student of the game. Learned a little bit more about it, started playing more, and then I went to transfer to UTA, and I joined their men's club team and started coaching at a smaller club at the time. It's actually a pretty big club. It's in the North Texas region called Texas Image Volleyball. So a few of my friends coached there, and I was able to work under some really good coaches and learn. And a few years had passed, and I had a lot of success there. Had gotten a lot better at volleyball as well. And then I was approached by kind of a club juggernaut, which is TAV. And so I would say the love started because of my siblings and just the culture that I grew up in is volleyball, everybody plays, but not anything organized until much later in life. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was actually reading some of the Facebook posts from a year ago because I was curious because it said that you talked about while watching the 2006 Longhorn women's volleyball team, you kind of taught yourself to play by watching the Longhorns. And during that time, was that kind of where you kind of decided where you wanted to pursue a career in volleyball?
Yeah, I always played tennis and basketball growing up. My family is a very athletic family, like everybody plays sports. Um, Usually, being half Samoan, most of my family members who are men are football players. I unfortunately don't have that build or desire to play football. But I remember watching, I think it was the College Sports Network, perhaps, back in 2006, and it was Texas volleyball versus Washington, and there was a few players that were freshmen who were astounded by their athletic ability on the Texas team. And I thought, like I'm a very analytical person, and I thought if I watch them, I'm sure I could emulate what they're doing. It didn't go well at first, I must say. But that's also how I started playing tennis when I was younger. My parents couldn't really afford lessons or the expensive rackets, so I'd watch the Williams sisters growing up and taught myself how to play tennis that way. So it was kind of the same mentality in volleyball, but I would say 100% Texas volleyball back in 2006 was the whole reason I really kind of wanted to amp it up a little bit more. And seeing the crowd at volleyball games, I never knew that it could be that way. And also Nebraska, I don't know if you've ever seen a Nebraska volleyball match. It's an insane atmosphere. There's always thousands of fans there. And it was kind of this gem that I had no idea was there that was super popular. And yeah, watching YouTube and college volleyball is how I initially started playing. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and you even took a shot at it when you were in college at the University of Texas Arlington. You actually medaled at the middle blocker position. When you were a player, how do you think that helped your coaching career, being a player at UTA?
Yeah, so I played there for one season. When I actually medaled at USAV Nationals, it was with a bunch of men who played in the NTR region. So it was actually not the UTA is not great, but the team was not super stellar, to be honest. Like Texas State has a pretty good club team. UT has a great club team. A&M has a phenomenal club team for men's volleyball. UTA is getting better, but at the time, many years ago, when I went to college, they weren't super great. But I would say I played a lot of USAV tournaments just with kind of 7 or 8 guys, and we would travel and play tournaments. But I think playing always helps. I think you can be a great coach and have never played the sport. But oftentimes when I talk to players, I do pull on experiences that I've had as a player, because I've played now for over 12 years. And I like to frame it though. Well, kids don't like to hear when I was a player. They don't care. They don't care if you were good. They don't care if you were bad. But it's more about just trying to fit in your experiences without telling them it's because you did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So it gives you a unique perspective to have gone through what they've gone through. So yeah.
Yeah, and I know throughout your time in Dallas, you were assistant at the Texas Advantage Volleyball, and you assisted with the TAV 17 Black, TAV 13 Black, and the TAV 18 Black teams. You were there for when 2 of the teams won USAV national championships, and you even amassed a record of 1 and 2 and 3 with the TAV 17 Black team, which is incredible. And as a coach at TAV, what area of your coaching improved, and what did you learn when it comes to coaching a championship team at that level?
Yeah, I think the greatest thing about when I was at TAV was I was very lucky to work under really great coaches. Ping is famous in the volleyball world. He coaches the top 17s team, and he has won, I think, 8 national championships. He medaled like 10 out of 11 years. It's pretty insane. Yeah. And it's not just, you go to nationals and there's 4 divisions that you can play in, but every year he would win in the top division of arguably the hardest age group. So I think what I learned the most was I always am an advocate of trying to better yourself as a coach and learning more continuously. And Ping is brilliant. He's very tough. A lot of the girls are terrified and won't even try out for his team because he was on the Chinese national team, and it's also intimidating to be on his staff. Like, to coach with him, he wants every drill run a precise way. He wants you to hit it 6 inches above this area. But I think I learned a lot from him as far as discipline, and he harps on technique. Even at the age of 17, you think a lot of kids, they just want to hit the volleyball. They just want to play matches. And when you watch him kind of break down the technical piece, I think that was something I learned, that no matter what age you are, whether it's college kids that I've worked with or high school kids or 12-year-olds, the technique piece of volleyball is so key. And then the discipline. I will never be as strict as Ping was, but I definitely think the kids really respond when you have structure. So I think just over the years, always trying to learn something from some coach. And sometimes bad coaches teach you just as much as good coaches. So I think TAV they're incredible. There's a couple kids at Texas State. They have 7 or 8 kids who played at Texas the last year. I've got a kid at Minnesota. She's one of my favorite kids I've ever coached, and she's killing it up there. But playing and training with those athletes every day really pushes you, because you can't just say the basic coaching things to them because they're too good for that. So you really have to fine tune what feedback you're giving them and at what level. So that's really what I've learned the most from being at TAV, is just the level of athlete, and then also the level of coaches there is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, I just realized that TAV, and I'm like, I don't think that's even a thing. It's TAV. Okay.
It happens all the time. We'll always joke when we'll go to tournaments, and when I was there and someone would say TAV, we would just be like, it's TAV, it's totally fine. But everybody does it because the graphic doesn't have periods after the letters. So
okay.
Usually people call it TAV. It's okay.
Okay. Yeah, I was like, oh, it's TAV. Okay. Oh, well, that happens. But another coaching opportunity that you've had has been working in Austin Junior Volleyball since 2017. And actually, you're going to be part of AGV again this season as well. When you've coached there, what experience have you taken away from that opportunity?
Yeah, the owners and directors of AJV are pretty phenomenal. They brought me in As soon as I moved down here, they knew I was coming, and they kind of welcomed me with open arms, which was awesome. And I've had an opportunity to work with some of their top teams, which has been really great. This next season, I'll be head coaching the top 17s, so that'll be very full circle moment when I have to play ping, because we'll be in the same age group. I fingers crossed it'll not be embarrassing, because he's going to be, ready to win, as he always does. But AJV is one of probably the most well-known volleyball club in Austin. There's a lot of other great clubs that have opened up, and but AJV is kind of the standard. So I've learned a lot just from them and how they do things. They do things a little different than TAV. It's not better or worse. It's just different. And really getting to see the talent in the Austin, Central Texas area, because DFW is littered with amazing athletes, and Central Texas is no exception. There's quite a few great kids. So really lucky to be at AJV. 3 years. It's been 3 years now. So oddly enough, a lot of the kids that we will play against in our district are kids I've coached in clubs. So that'll be funny to see them on the other side. We'll see.
I could only imagine. And in 2018-2019 season, you had your first full-time coaching gig at St. Edward's University as assistant coach. Obviously, I can imagine it's different when you coach full-time, but what was it kind of like to fully embrace the coaching life for the Hilltoppers?
Yeah, that was I've always grappled with, I've worked in corporate HR off and on for about 10 years. And it's always battling the do what you love, or, do what quote unquote pays well. And I think when I took the opportunity at St. Edward's, it was a dream. It was everything I thought it was going to be. I didn't want to move. There's a lot of college opportunities that present themselves, but I wanted to live in Austin. I didn't want to go anywhere. And your options are limited in Austin if you want to coach full-time volleyball. It's UT, and that staff, there's no way I would ever break into that. And then Texas State, where Sean's at, and they had been there forever. And St. Ed's is Division II. It's a small private school. And it was really great. It was a lot of managing things outside of volleyball, which is something that I knew I had done in the corporate world, but I wanted to see how it was in the volleyball community. Just travel, uniforms, recruiting. There's a lot of pieces to it. And it was great. The head coach there and I are very good friends. I had such a good time that when I did leave St. Edward's, I stayed on as a volunteer, and I would go to their practice every morning before I would go to my actual job. So that kind of speaks to how great I think St. Edward's is, and what Stephanie Holler is doing up on the hilltop is pretty incredible. The girls there are amazing. They're just amazing on and off the court. So it makes it really easy to spend an extra 20 hours a week doing volleyball on top of your regular job. So St. Edward's will, unfortunately, with taking this new job, I won't be able to help out as much, but I will still be able to attend some weekend home games, and we'll see how that goes. A lot of volleyball.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of answered the question a little bit because I was going to ask how difficult it was while you're going through your coaching career to coach and work at the same time. Can you kind of talk about a little bit just how difficult it was to kind of manage, having a job, but also trying to pursue a coaching career?
Yeah, it's not easy, I would say. And I think just me switching back to volleyball full time and taking this opportunity at San Marcos kind of shows how much I want to be coaching. I thought, maybe I can go back to the corporate world and see how it is. And it's been great. The company I'm with is amazing, but balancing both, it's almost, you leave one that you love and are passionate about, and then have to go to another that you might not be as passionate about. So that was tough. And I will say what makes it worth it, though, is every morning when you get to the college gym at 5:45 in the morning, all of the kids are in the same boat as you. They're balancing schoolwork, their personal lives. So it makes it easy to kind of stay in great spirits. But in the evenings, it gets exhausting. It gets a little tired. So it does catch up to you. But I think it's just about finding that balance, and your personal life, as all coaches can attest to, kind of takes a hit. But it's all worth it in the end. So, yeah.
And now, only a few minutes away from San Marcos High School is Tech State University, where your friend and colleague, head coach Sean Hewitt with the Maroon and Gold volleyball team. In an article, he mentioned the head coach spot opened up and he reached out to you. And when you visited and met the people at San Marcos High School, was there any moment in particular where you said, oh, yeah, I want to be the next head coach here?
I want to think. I want to make sure I'm answering this honestly. I think I really respect Sean's opinion,
Mm-hmm.
and you worked with him a lot, so I'm sure you know he tells it as it is. There's really no other way about it. And that being said, he had only ever said positive things about San Marcos. I remember driving down, in full transparency, I was a little nervous because, I'm from the city, and I'm like, oh, where am I going? Like, this is a little further than I thought. And I got to the high school, and, it's kind of hidden. You kind of go over this little hill and then you see the stadium. And I was kind of floored that I was like, oh, wow, this is quite a stadium for this high school. And then seeing the facilities, but it was really just, stopping at the gas station and then grabbing food and then going somewhere with Sean to have, dinner somewhere, and just seeing everybody in San Marcos they're so friendly. And there's really a community. Like, Sean got recognized everywhere, which I'm sure, he's like, oh, you're the volleyball coach, but I think the facilities were a big piece of it. And then I also have a lot of respect for Coach Walsh, who is the new AD at San Marcos, who really put us in contact first. I coached a couple of the girls who he was the AD at his previous high school at Denver. So they had initially connected, and then Sean, I think shortly after, was like, you have to jump on this. It's San Marcos. I promise you it's great. So I think those two things combined kind of made it clear. But the community is truly probably the reason, I think.
Yeah, I know for sure when I've been there personally, the community there and the family atmosphere was just intoxicating for us when we first at KTSW came over there to report. And just the coaches there and what they're building in San Marcos is really cool. And I know Coach Hewitt, I've never really told him this, but we always privately at KTSW say Texas State's a volleyball school. So
they've done so well. It pretty much, it might as well be. They've won the last two Sun Belt championships. What they've done there, Sean, Tracy, the previous assistant coach, and then of course, it's really, really incredible to see. So I'm super excited to see what he does in the next couple of years. It's also fun to just watch him coach. Really good friends with the assistant, Keith Anderson, and they're both incredible coaches, and I'm super excited. Fingers crossed that the fall season happens. And if it does, I'm sure they'll be starting where they left off from last year for sure.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, I wasn't sure if you knew who Keith Anderson was. I was assuming probably you've met him through your time and playing. Where did you friendship, or where did you first meet him for the first time, Coach Anderson?
Yeah, so he was a club player at A&M, and he's a very, not the tallest fellow, but I remember he played outside and libero, and I thought, when I saw him playing outside, I thought, is this right? And then I saw him playing, and he's incredible. He was incredible at the time. So he's a feisty player, and we played against each other when we were younger, and then kind of kept that friendship. He also used to coach at UTA. Mm-hmm. So I went to UTA, and then we knew each other there. So we go way back, and I actually knew Keith before Sean. So when he got this opportunity to be with Sean, first I thought, like, this is going to be insane. Like, they're just both so talented. And then Tori, their other assistant, is phenomenal too. So it's going to be exciting to see what they do in the coming years. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I talked with them both, it was interesting because when I was doing my research, their career paths were so eerily similar. Yeah. They both were at A&M at the same time. They both coached at the Sun Belt at the exact same time. Yeah. So I remember thinking that was odd when I first heard it, just like how similar their paths were, and both of them being great players respectively.
Yeah, it's all the volleyball community is especially not as much in the high school scene, but the club college scene is very connected. Like everybody knows everyone in some way or the other. So you will see that there are more and more club coaches moving to high school as well. So that does kind of expand that network. Like the Lake Travis head coach is a really great club coach at Austin Performance. And there's a couple other club coaches who coach high school in our district. So a lot of familiar faces. We'll see.
And I know that you mentioned Coach John Walsh joining the Rattler family. He also brought some of his family with him. Maggie Walsh is a name I've heard very early on from
Yeah.
Coach Walsh and even from Matt Stepp on Twitter as part of Dave Campbell's Texas football. How excited are you to have a talent like hers join the team and the collection of players on the team as a whole?
Yeah, I have only been able to see
Mm-hmm.
a couple of them play like a couple of times because of COVID, which
Mm-hmm.
is really upsetting, but it's, for safety reasons. So I totally understand. But Maggie's a great player. I watched her in high school. She also played club uh, in the Dallas area for almost this, I don't want this to come off the wrong way, but kind of the female version of Ping. In Salini, and she's a Brazilian superstar. She played on the Brazilian Olympic team. Phenomenal trainer. So Maggie has been coached by some of the best, and I did get to see her play a couple times, and very impressed with what she can do. She's a defensive beast. I mean, she is all over the court, and she played at a very good high school. Denton Geyer, their volleyball team was loaded with talented kids, and she was one of them. So super excited to have her and the rest of the team. There's a lot of other great pieces at San Marcos. I thought, you can do research and see records and get a little nervous with what you might have to work with. But I think they have a lot of talent. And I think it just will be exciting to work with all of them. Maggie will be a huge piece for sure. But there's so many other integral parts and girls down there that I think can make an impact. But I'm lying if I didn't say that we're super stoked that she's going to be at the team. She's an incredible player.
Yeah, I'm sure. I know that you said there's some limitations right now just because of COVID, but I think what you're already doing is fantastic by inviting former alums from the University of Texas like Kat McCoy and Ebby Wanobu to your Zoom calls for the Rattler team. What kind of inspired you to do that?
Yeah, I think for many years I've worked under coaches, as I've said, and I've always thought, like, if I decide to take over a high school, or if I, ever took over a college program that's smaller, the culture piece is the most important. So I think what's been so great is I've known Ebony since she was at TAV. I actually coached Kat, which was super nice. We have a series every Thursday where they're going to talk about different things, and especially at the high school level, volleyball is important, and I want to win always. But I think really making sure the kids are taken care of in a holistic way, and that they're not just hyper focused on winning games, and kind of developing their skills on and off the court. So Ebony talked about mental health. Kat talked about competitiveness, whether you're winning or losing, and which was great. We have other guests later that will talk about being a captain, nutrition, keeping your body well stretched and like ready to go and compete, because kids when they're 16, 17, they like hit the ball a couple times and they're like ready. And like, it's nice when you're 16, but it'll have really bad long-term effects. So, and then we will kind of culminate everything. Our last speaker right before season, if it happens, will be Chiaka Ogbogu, and she's on the current Olympic team. So it's a lot. Yeah, I didn't want to overwhelm them, but some of the kids are like, "Ooh, this is so cool," and some of the kids are like, "Who are these girls?" So, but what's great is they have such great advice. Like, it's not about, "Oh, this is, Ebony, who a phenomenal volleyball player," but she's so much more than that. And Kat is a phenomenal volleyball player, but what makes them better people on and off the court? And to the girls, I want them to know, I won't accept anything less than your best. But at the same time, you need to take care of yourself and make sure you're keeping things in perspective. So that was kind of the thought process. And I want to make sure, especially since we can't be in the gym, that we're learning something every week. So this is a big piece of that. So I'm super thankful that the girls have agreed to come back. And so far it's been received well. So hopefully it'll keep going that way. So.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I appreciate most about the coaches at San Marcos High School is that, yes, I think winning's important, but I think what outside of the gym is even more important, setting yourself up outside. I know Coach Walsh, Coach Pinchback, I'm sure all the other coaches kind of focus on teaching young men and women what life is going to be after coaching. And I think that's admirable because I don't think that's talked enough about. And I always appreciate the fact coaches are willing to go the extra mile to kind of help these young men and women out. It's always fantastic to see.
Yeah, and I think it really does help you win more.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had a pretty good record in my past, and a lot of that's because you worry about more than just the volleyball piece. So it's really cool to see what they're doing at San Marcos. There's a lot of new coaches, can ruffle some feathers. It's kind of interesting what's happening, but I think it's going to be great. And I think at the end of the day, they're there for the kids, and that's what matters most. So.
I know early on this process already, you have some fans. Rattler coach for football and track Marvin Nash said you're an incredible coach in person, already leaving an impact on the coaching staff at San Marcos High School. How many coaches have you been able to meet so far and talk with?
So I've met Coach Kleiber. I met Coach Walsh. I've virtually met Coach Mendoza. She's the head coach of the girls track team. I talk to her almost every day. She's been super helpful in getting me up to speed. Who else have I met? I interviewed with Coach Mazer, who's the boys soccer coach. So I haven't met in person many. Mostly Coach Walsh and his staff. It's like this new normal of meeting people virtually it's odd, but
yeah,
include virtual meeting, I've met like 7, and then in person I would say 3. But that's Coach Nash is obviously, he's an incredible person and coach. So for him to say anything positive, I didn't know he'd seen me coach in person, which probably was when he was living up in Dallas. His daughter plays club, who's also a great volleyball player. So maybe he saw something. I'm glad he caught me at a good time. That's sweet of him to say.
Yeah, I was weird because I was talking to Drew McLaren, who's another reporter and a great friend of mine, and he was interviewing him yesterday. And I was asking him while I was preparing questions for this interview, I went, okay, so yeah, I was just giving information. And he goes, you know what, Coach Nash did say something really nice about Coach Taylor. You should probably put it there. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. So I just thought I'd mention that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think as a coach, you have a wealth of knowledge working with D1 athletes, meeting former alums from the University of Texas, and I'm sure many more colleges like you mentioned. When you sit back and look at your 14 years of coaching experience, what does it mean to have an opportunity like this to coach a growing powerhouse in San Marcos High School?
Yeah, I think it sounds cheesy, but it's what I've always dreamt of, is taking over a program that actually, maybe some don't take seriously. And I think that's what's most exciting about working with this volleyball program. It'll also test my chops. It's like I've had a lot of success, but if you talk a big game, you've got to be able to, show that there are some results. So I'm also excited for the challenge. But I'm just really excited to get in and meet all of the kids and the athletes, and not just the volleyball team, just the students at San Marcos. I think it's been a community that I've seen so far that's really tight and close knit. So I'm excited to be part of that. And it's really, really going to be interesting in the next 12 months with COVID, how everything pans out. But I know we're all itching to get on campus and meet the kids. And I couldn't be more thrilled, honestly. So.
Yeah, I am for sure looking forward to see what San Marcos High School does. I know that just because of what's going on right now, it's a bit up in the air whether sports is going to come back. And I know I was talking with Coach Hewitt at Bobcat Radio, and I was talking about how desperate I was for sports. And he goes, yeah, I was watching this tournament. I forget what he said it was, but it was when they get the trampoline and they throw the ball. And he said he's watching it with Keith Anderson, and he said they were so pumped up. And he's like, I'm not going to reveal how long I watched that for, but I just had such a great time.
I can't tell you how many replays I've watched of or professional volleyball. It's just like replay after replay to where I know what happens when it happens. I'm like, okay, well, she's gonna do okay, and that's like I just need new material. I need new volleyball matches to happen. The Big Ten just coming out that they're canceling preseason and nothing but conferences. Kind of, it's going to be interesting to see. And then the Ivies canceling their season. That's kind of what spearheaded everybody canceling last spring. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how everything pans out. But regardless of what happens, like hopefully everybody stays safe. But I definitely miss sports. I miss even sports I never watched before. I'm like, I just want to watch sports, like something.
Yeah, for sure. And I know this was a lot of material we went through, but I was reading through a Facebook post I was posted last year, and that you talked about you love coffee. And yeah, and I know they have a few coffee spots that you like, but because I'm a coffee snob myself.
Well, you're gonna have to give me your list in San Marcos because I don't know any in San Marcos.
Yeah, I don't know about. I went to probably like 2 places maybe, but like I like making my own coffee, so that's like a whole bag. But like if you were going to go to any place, what is kind of your go-to cup of coffee?
Oh gosh, that is perhaps the most difficult question you've asked. Okay. Easily the most difficult question. I will say, oh man, I'm gonna narrow it down to 2. Okay. So one will be, it's on the east side and it's called Figure 8 Purveyors. It's right next to Houston Tillotson University, and it's more for the environment. It's got like a green room, so a lot of plants. It's like kind of like hippy dippy, which I'm always a fan of. And it's on the east side of Austin. It's a cool spot. And it's a pretty good cup of coffee. And then, oh man, this is tough. I just feel like I'm letting everyone down if I don't pick them. Coffee shops that I go all the time. If no one's going to know that I did this. The coffee shop owners are going to think, "Wow, really, Jared? Like, how many times it didn't pick us?" I guess I would say Once Over Coffee. It's off of South First, so it's really good. It's really strong, and they don't put a lot of sweetener in it, which is how I prefer. Like if the coffee's not good without sweetener, then the coffee's not good. It's kind of my opinion. So I'll go with Once Over Coffee or Figure 8 Purveyors.
Okay, so everyone listen, make sure to check those places out for sure. And I think that's going to wrap it up. I appreciate you coming on and telling us a little bit about yourself. Now I get to know you a little bit better, and I can't wait to start covering this team once the season resumes. So I really do appreciate you taking the time and joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out. It's always nice to share, a little bit of volleyball. So looking forward to seeing you at some games. Hopefully, if we have a season, we will.
For sure. Thank you so much for joining me. Appreciate it.